Mr. DeBola, can you start, sir? There's your mic. There's your mic. And if everybody can get, actually, I'll get that mic. Frank, thank you. If we can all gather, like, beside the podium, because the truck's going to move up ahead a little bit.
Good morning, everyone.
So you can move ahead as soon as we get...
National Congress of Italian Canadians.
Clay.
The sponsors for this event.
Oh, Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all thy sons' command. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true north strong and free. From far and wide, O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Welcome everyone to this historic event. I'd like to begin by introducing some of the guests this morning here at Queen's Park, starting off with Laura Albanese, representing the Liberal government, Mr. Frank Cleese, representing the Conservatives, and Mr. Rosario Marchese, representing the NDP. I'd also like to welcome this morning Mr. Ari Reif, who is with the Canadian Perez Foundation for Peace. He's the co-sponsor with the National Congress of Italian Canadians, bringing the two fathers together and bringing them to Toronto for this historic event. The two fathers, as you know, have a unique and share a unique story that's very important from the standpoint of bringing a message not only of the importance of organ and tissue donation, but also of peace, and how we really are united in one family, one community. I'd like to begin by calling upon Laura Albanese to say a few words.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here this morning. I am quite touched to be present. I want to start by thanking George Marcello and Step by Step, everyone involved with Step by Step, for bringing awareness to Ontarians about organ donation. I have known Marcello for many years, and since he was waiting for his first transplant, and I admire his determination in bringing the issue forward. And I also want to thank my colleagues. Mike Cole could not be here today, and whom I'm representing, and Mr. Frank Cleese and Rosario Marchese. Together they are bringing forward a very important resolution and here at the legislature, and bringing the issue forward. So that's very important. I also want to say thank you to the two donor fathers who are here with us today. I mentioned a few moments ago that they have gone through incredible loss, but the memories of their two children lives on through the gift of life. And there are, I believe, 12 different donors that are donor recipients that are now living thanks to the enormous contribution that these two dads have given. I'm very proud to say that our government is trying to find ways to make it easier for people to donate. Most recently, we have now established a website, www.donor.ca, and people can go on the website and with a click of the button. It's easy, it's efficient, and most importantly, it saves lives. It's important to bring awareness to this issue. I also have greetings from our Premier today that I have with me and that I want to read to all the people that are present. On behalf of the Government of Ontario, I am delighted to warmly welcome Step by Step Organ Transplant Association founder George Marcello, donor dads Greg Green and Ismael Khatib, as students from De La Salle College as you bring the torch of life to Queen's Park. For a suffering patient, organ or tissue donation often means the difference between life and death. Too many people face an agonizing wait for donations that could save their lives. That is why the Ontario government continues to work with our healthcare partners to increase organ and tissue donation. We want to do everything we can to ensure that more Ontarians get the second chance at life that they deserve. To Reg and Ismael, as a parent myself, I cannot even begin to fathom what you have gone through. Your selfless commitment to this cause has touched and saved many lives. And for that, I am deeply grateful. I would also like to thank the dedicated individuals of Step by Step and everyone who has volunteered to carry the torch of life. Know that your collective efforts inspire others to take the courageous step of giving the most powerful gift of all, the gift of life. Signed by Dalton McGuinty, Premier of Ontario. And George, if I could call you up here just to receive this.
Okay. Can I get the donor dads with me?
Yeah.
Right?
And the donor dads. Here, you can take that. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. Thank you. Thank you, George. Thank you.
Our next person to speak will be Sir Frank Police, member for
the
Newmarket
three
Rural.
parties are the Liberals, the Conservatives, and
Thank you, and it's an honor for me to participate in this occasion. I'm pleased to represent Tim Hudak, the leader of the official opposition, and my colleagues in the PC caucus, all of whom support this initiative. And I just want to say that I so deeply respect George Marcello and his leadership in Step by Step, taking the issue of organ donor awareness not only across this province, but across our country and in fact internationally. I want to also in a special way welcome Mr. Green and Mr. Khatib here to the steps of the legislature in this great province of Ontario and in our great country. I think it's only fitting that we have here representatives from other countries, but they're here for a common purpose, and that is to help raise awareness of organ donation. I came to understand in a very real way the importance of organ donation by sitting across my board table in my constituency office with constituents who have been on waiting lists for many years and whose lives are in the balance, dependent on an organ donor. And that really is what caused me to begin my advocacy to raise awareness for organ donation and to ensure that our government support not only the awareness issues but the registration and then indeed the application throughout our medical system, the important initiative of organ donation. I'm so pleased to be here with my colleagues from both the NDP and the Liberal caucus. We will be jointly bringing forward a resolution that reads as follows.
that in the opinion of this House, the government develop and establish a Torch of Life alert system, reflecting the Amber Alert system, to serve as an option for medical personnel and parents to make public the immediate and critical transplant needs of children under the age of 18 for organ and tissue donations and other medical needs, in the hope of more quickly securing a donor under the existing guidelines pertaining to organ donation and registration in Ontario, involving the cooperation of the Ministry of Health, parents, medical personnel, and hospital administrators. And I think as we move forward, clearly we can see that this is something that all parties can get behind and ensure that we have a quick implementation of really what is a life-saving measure. Thank you.
Next, I'd like to call on Rosario Marchese, member for Trinity Spadina.
Thanks very much, Michael. I'm very happy to be here to support the NDP, to represent my party, and also to replace Peter Comas, who's done a tremendous amount of work in this area with other colleagues in the legislature. Like my colleagues, I want to thank Mr. Khalib and thank Mr. Green for bringing the torch here and for reminding us that this is something that affects everyone universally, and that through their act of kindness and their act of peace, they have been able to save many lives as a result of their permission to have their sons' organs donated to other people. And I want to thank George and Marcello as well for the tireless work that he has done over the past 20 years. Because of his indefatigable advocacy, many people in Canada and in Ontario, particularly beyond Canada, have begun to give permission so that organs could be given to those who are desperately in need. For many of us, the only time we think about organ donation is when we get a reminder when we have to renew the driver's license. But for people who are waiting for an organ, that's all they think about, day in and day out, every moment of their lives. And when only 20% of Canadians are donors, or at least have given permission to donate, it means that we have a tremendous amount of work to do. And so the passing of the torch here today is a reminder about the work that we have to do. It's a reminder that we are all very fragile. We're not going to be here forever. It's a reminder that something could happen to any one of us, including any one of our family members, and that it's important to be able to sign those cards so that if something should happen to us, we can save lives, and if something happens to somebody else, we can make a huge contribution to making sure that their lives are saved. So, happy to be here, happy to support this resolution, which I believe goes a long way to creating the urgency that is desperately needed. Making the Torch of Life alert a reality is not something the resolution can do, but I think a bill eventually should be able to do that, and it would make an incredible contribution to giving more and more of our organs to those who are in desperate need. So I'm happy to be part of a tripartite resolution here that is going to make this happen. Thank you.
I'd now like to ask from the Toronto Police Force Superintendent Dave McCormick to join us.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much. It's my pleasure indeed at this time to bring greetings from Chief William Blair from the Toronto Police Service and specifically the Toronto Police. I never cease to be amazed by the tireless work put forth by Mr. George Marcello and indeed by all of the participants in the various Torch of Life walks. The incredible stories of tragedy and the wonderful stories of lives touched and changed forever by the kindness and generosity of others, like these two gentlemen here with us today, are truly inspirational. I wish you continued success in all of your endeavors to shine light on the important issue of organ donation and hope to see both awareness of and names on the donor list grow exponentially. Again, it is my pleasure to be here and be a small part of this, and I see great things coming from everybody's joint efforts here today. Thank you very much.
I'd now like to ask Mr. Ari Wright from the Canadian Perez Foundation for Peace to join me.
Thank you, Michael. We are an Israeli-based organization sponsoring this event because organ donation has no boundaries, borders, religions. It has one purpose, as our founder, the current president of the State of Israel said, if I would like to be remembered in history, I would like to be remembered as one who saved one life. Mr. Khatib, a Palestinian from Jenin, and Mr. Green from the United States are an example of how people can build peace, not only governments. Their donations, their gift of life to Israeli children, to Italian children, is the most important momentum in the history of organ donations. I want to thank George Marcello, and I want to say a word to Member of Parliament Frank Lees. Your initiative has more than a support. I want to tell the members of the NDP and the Liberals, this support cannot and will not have any limits by borders, politics, religions, whatever. This has to happen, and the media's role is to say again and again that as long as there are children, adults that are waiting for organs, our duty is to make sure they get these organs. Thank you very much.
I'd now like to ask the fathers to step up. I guess we'll start with Mr. Green. Would you like to join me?
thank you all very much for coming and supporting this very important resolution. Organ donation exists on two levels. First, and most obviously, it's the saving of lives. In our own case, for example, one 19-year-old girl is dying of liver failure every night. She bounced back to health, got married soon afterwards, and had a baby. He lived 4 years. Throughout life, he has been known as Big Nicholas to this small boy, and they've treated him as a hero. Well, now that boy is 15 years old. I'm tall here, but they still refer to my little boy as Big Nicholas. It's just an example of the many things that this can achieve. In Italy alone, organ donation rates have quadrupled, so that literally thousands of people are alive today. An illustration that any one of us at any time can make all the difference. But in addition, at another level, organ donation is at a sort of spiritual level. It leaps all the normal boundaries between us. Black men are walking around with white men's hearts inside them, and vice versa. Hispanics breathe through Asian lungs, and vice versa. And dare I say it, liberals can see the world through conservative corneas, and vice versa. Now, what more vivid illustration can there be that what divides us as people is trifling compared with what we've got in common? And I think if you were to able to ask my son and Ishmael's son what was the very best thing that came out of my life, it would be that thought. It gives us a hope for a gentleman. Thank you.
I would now like to invite Mr. Ishmael Khatib with his interpreter, Imam Ali, to join us.
الرسالات السماوية أو فلسطين الوطن والهوية نضحي معاناة شعبنا الصابر بأجل العيش والسلام.
From the land of prophecies and prophets, from the land of peace, I came here to Canada to represent the pain, the sorrow, and the joy and the hope of my people.
والعادل المتنقلة من دولة إلى أخرى أحمل همي وجرحي كفلسطيني عاش الشتات والحرمان.
And I'm jumping from a country to a country, carrying my wounds and my hope.
من أدنى حقوقه التي تمنحه إياها الإنسانية.
Seeking for the least of rights that a human should have.
من مهد المسيح ومن مصر سيدنا محمد.
From the land of Jesus, the son of Mary, and the place of Muhammad that went to heaven.
وانبعاث النور من أرض الأنبياء وأهتدي إلى الحرية التي يتوق إليها شعبي المظلوم عبر سنين الاحتلال.
From the land of freedom, looking for the freedom that we've been looking for it for so many years.
سنة تليها سنة نمر عبر هذا النفق المظلم عسى أن نرى النور في النهاية.
Year come and another year come and we are in this dark tunnel hoping for the light at the end of the tunnel.
من أرض عشقت أحمد وعشقها رسم أحلامه فيها.
From a land that loved my son Ahmed and my son loved her in return.
Wow.
And he designed his dream in it.
أعطاني القوة والحياة من أجل طفولة لغيره.
And through his death gave me the strength to be able to provide life for some other children.
لأطفال أبناء جدتهم قتلوه.
To a children that he was killed by some of their own people.
تالوا الفرحة في العيد في عيون أطفال فلسطين وخاصة في خيم جنين.
They robbed the happiness, the enjoyment of the festivity at that day from my children.
صرخ أحمد من ألم الرصاص مبتسما قائلا لقد اتسخت ملابسي.
Ahmed yelled out screaming from the pain, my celebration clothes got dirty.
ومزقت جسدي الطاهر.
And bullets went through my skins.
ولكن ما ذنبي؟ لماذا تقتل الطفولة؟
What is my fault? What is my crime? Why I'm getting killed?
من حيفا انبعث الألم الأول حيث اللجوء والتشريد.
From Haifa, the calamity and disaster began in my life by becoming a refugee in 48.
من حيفا كان ملك الموت بانتظار أحمد حيث فارق الحياة.
And in Haifa, by the destiny of God, that my son passed away back in Haifa.
مبتسما بأنه فارق الحياة ليعطي الحياة للآخرين.
With a smile on his face, and me happy for him knowing that he would be able to provide life for someone else.
وها أنا اليوم في كندا أروي ألمي حيث بدأ من هنا من حيفا بلدي مسقط رأسي.
I'm here in Canada among you, sharing with you my story and my pain that I came out from Haifa.
وحيفا أخذت ولدي وها أنا اليوم أنشد العدالة والسلام لجميع أطفال العالم في كندا.
Haifa that took away the life of my son, but here I am among you, seeking peace, happiness and safety for all children.
مثل هذه الأيام سقط أحمد شهيدا واليوم ينتصر الحق على الموت.
Like these days my son passed away and today the truth is overwinning the falsehood.
وتبعث حياة جديدة يبعث الأمل من جديد لتبدأ حياة جديدة يعمرها السلام العالمي.
With every new life, with every new gift, another life is giving and a new hope is giving to the world.
لأطفالنا لأن الحياة تستحق أن نعمل معا لبناء مستقبل ينعم بالحرية والسلام والديمقراطية.
To our children, because our children deserve the right to live in peace and harmony and democracy.
لأطفالهم من حقهم أن يعيشوا بأمن وسلام وعلم وتقدم بعيدا عن الحروب والقتل والدمار.
Our children and the Jewish children have the same equal right to live in peace and harmony and to shun away from killing and wars.
هنا أقول للشعب الكندي ليكن شعارنا نحن الفلسطينيون وكل شعوب الأرض وخاصة الأصدقاء الكنديين شعارنا الحب والسلام والمحبة والحياة للجميع.
So I tell my Canadian public, share with me the love and the peace and harmony to bring peace and harmony and life to the whole world.
شاكرا لكم لكل إنسان ساهم في مجيئه إلى هذا البلد العظيم وإن شاء الله يعم السلام ويطوف كل بقاع الأرض.
So grateful and thankful to those who have arranged for me to come here to be among you. I thank you for being here and God bless.
I'm not sure the formal part has been completed. I don't know if you have any questions for our guests from California and Palestine, and whether you have some questions perhaps for our provincial members of parliament.
I have some questions for Frank and Rosie and Laura about the whole push for this. I just want to make sure if you could maybe, if you guys want to come to the podium. I'm just trying to illustrate. So this is an all-party resolution, and what happens with it here? Obviously you want to push it.
Well, clearly, the next step is for us to present the resolution in the legislature. It'll be presented as an all-party resolution. The purpose of a resolution is to indicate, first of all, the wish of members of the legislature and asking the government to take initiative. And so, first of all, when the resolution is tabled, it'll be a signal to the government that this is an important issue to the members of the legislature, and it calls on the government to move forward to ensure that the necessary steps are taken. Well, I think, first of all, what we realize is that people are asked if they would want to be organ donors. More than 95% of people say yes. Unfortunately, less than 18% of people have actually registered.
I'll introduce you to the reporter and a couple of the...
So there's a huge gap between the fact that people recognize how important it is and being given an opportunity to actually do so. That's number one. So through a measure like this, we raise public awareness about the importance, and hopefully through things like the online registry system that is now in place in Ontario, we actually get people to understand the importance of taking that first step. The next step is this. Many times there are circumstances where organs may well be available. It is a matter of then raising the awareness through something like this alert system, sending a signal to both the medical community and probably much more important, the parents of children who might be in a circumstance where they could be potential donors. To raise that public awareness and have the message go out to parents that there is a specific need can in fact help to actually get that organ to the point where it is needed. So it's a matter of raising public awareness, it's a matter of improving our system within this province and hopefully nationally so that that can take place.
Who's got, do any other jurisdictions have this kind of Amber Alert type of, I forget what you call it, organ donation system?
There is no jurisdiction that we have, that we know of at this point that actually has a public alert system. Ontario would be taking an important first step, and we believe, should Ontario take this step, that there will be other jurisdictions that will quickly follow because it just makes such good practical sense.
Is it, but you're saying first and foremost is public awareness. So the alert goes out that there's a need for it, but we're not changing on how we actually deliver an organ to someone in need.
No, we have a very good system in place. The problem really is that there aren't sufficient resources being put behind that system. And I think what the medical community is telling us is by getting this kind of public support, it will enhance their chances of actually getting governments to provide the kind of practical resources and support to implement.
But I think no, but I wanted to add that what we need are more donors. We just don't have enough of them. There are other considerations. I mean, part of what we were talking about in the last debate around this is if people are giving an organ and it takes them out of commission for a couple of weeks or 3 or 4 or 5 weeks, shouldn't there be more financial support for them? And that's another consideration. So that's something governments have to look at as well. But the fundamental problem is that we don't have enough people giving willing to or giving consent for their organs to be used, and that's part of the overall campaign. And it does take time. And the more consciousness you build around it, the more people will give. So this is another step in that direction.
How close are we to have this alert? I mean, the resolution is, in my sense, weak. Why not going ahead with a bill and make it reality?
You're absolutely right, and the next step would be a bill. And what we want to do is collectively, jointly, consult with stakeholders. It's not up to us to craft that bill as politicians. We will be there to help, but we want to consult with the medical community to ensure that all of the appropriate components of that bill are there. And when we've had a chance to do that work, the objective is to bring that bill forward.
But Frank, I mean, the main point is that if the government wants to introduce a bill on this, they would have more resources than we do. Our initiative is simply moving this agenda along, but the government can and should, in fact, think about proposing a bill. There should be no barrier to that introduction. Given that we all believe that it's something that can be done, hopefully they might sidetrack us and introduce a bill.
So would you guys do your own private members bill?
Well, I think what Rosario's saying is hopefully there's no need for a private members bill. This resolution sends a strong signal that all three parties think this is important. What we would ideally like to see is the Minister of Health now taking the initiative and coming forward with a government bill to get on with it.
Is this something your government is willing to do?
Well, I think that
Closer to the mics, please. Sorry, closer to the mics.
as it has been mentioned, I believe that a number of members are all supportive of this, and it's a great initiative in principle. And we want to do everything that we can to increase organ donation, and it's something that will need to be looked at.
And finally, like, how would this alert work exactly? I'm trying to understand. Are we gonna? Would we see like the same kind of alert we see for the Amber Alert?
Yeah, well, we have the Amber.
Same
The Amber
idea.
Alert is in place, and also most recently, our government introduced the alert for people who suffer from Alzheimer's, for example, and often go wandering. So that's a silver alert. I believe that it could work on similar principles.
It's the same principle.
Yeah, it's the same principle.
But it would be the medical profession that would determine who would be on that list in terms of the alert. It wouldn't be us determining that list.
And it would, I am sure, require cooperation from the media. So there will have to be consultations with the media.
Could someone just walk me through how this would work then? So let's say there's a 10-year-old boy in the hospital who needs a kidney. Then this alert might, if the case is appropriate, then this alert might be issued, and they would say we need a kidney for a 10-year-old boy who's going to die in a couple of days if we don't. And that's as simple as that.
It's as simple as that. Yeah, exactly.
You know, the OPP often don't want to put out Amber Alerts because they say too many and people stop listening. We got an Amber Alert, we got a Silver Alert. I don't question for a second that this is important and needed, but is there not a point when you start saying people are not going to listen anymore because there's too many alerts out there?
I personally don't believe that. This would be a new system. This would be a new system, obviously, and most people are not familiar with it. So the fact that we would be doing that immediately would send an alert to people saying that they should donate, and so on. Given that we haven't done this yet, it's hard to simply say that it's going to be too much, because it's a new area altogether. But I think people are looking for that information, and I don't think they would be turned off at all. But if that were to be something that could become a problem down the line, that's something we could discuss. But at the moment, I don't believe that's an issue at all.
You know, just to speak briefly to that, we have many examples here, just in very recent months, of individuals who have been desperate, for example, for a kidney transplant. And the system as it normally works has left them on the waiting list. When public alerts have been put out, people respond to them. And we have people who are alive today because there was a public alert. And if I could, I'd like to ask George Marcello to just comment on that very issue. It was really George's initiative, and George, maybe you could give an example. I have a constituent in my riding, Mr. Bruce Cuthbert, We had a press conference here at Queen's Park. He had been waiting, was very desperate. It was as a result of that press conference, that public alert, that a donor came forward. He's alive today and doing well. So this is, I think, a lot of that particular example gave initiative to what we're doing here today, to say, look, if it could happen for Bruce, it can happen for many other people. And it's simply a matter of to what ends do we go to ensure that people at least have the opportunity for life. George, if you want to comment.
Thank you, Frank. I just want to add just a few more comments. I got together with Frank about 11 months ago, started talking to him about this, and this was over many years of trying to do everything we can to improve the system through various methods. As everyone knows, I worked with Peter Kormos at the beginning, trying to get the opt-out system going here, but you know, we came to a realization that we had to look at something that would be practical, that would be supported, and that's why I supported Frank Cleese on both his initiatives, and the most recent one with the online registry. Because I think once we make it as easy as possible for people to register, then the idea, as everybody's been saying here, is to get the donors. And through all the activities that we've done over the past 20 years, we must have, I say, intervened in hundreds of family situations where the mother or the father or the brother or the sister would be calling step by step to help them save their child or their brother or their sister. And what we would put in effect was a kind of an Amber Alert. We appealed to the media, we did our torch treks, and I'll tell you something, 99% of all the activities that we did in this area, doing it like that, we had happy stories to share afterwards. So, you know, we are looking at something that's practical, that will be supported by all the members, and by sending out an alert, you can't send out enough alerts. You know, I mean, I would be happy to let everybody know that right now, just two blocks down at Sick Kids Children Hospital, there's 200 kids that need an Amber Alert. You know, so are we going to tell them that, sorry, we can't act on your behalf because there's too many alerts or too many appeals? So I think along with the politicians, the government, the media, we form our partnerships. We form our partnerships and make this a priority to save our children, and that's why it was appropriate for us to make this announcement today in honor of two famous fathers that had their children lost to them through a very tragic situations, and that's why we want to, if I could get everybody's consent, to carry this act, this bill, or whatever it turns out to be, in their memories, just to remind people, because yes, there is a lot of states, countries that are looking to see how Ontario does with this. I've been in contact with most of them, so they're paying attention to this. So we can pave the road right here in Ontario. We can do it here if we got the cooperation of the government, and then our stakeholders with the medical community and everybody else. We could make this happen, and it will be successful if we make it happen.
Just in terms of details, let's say you send an alert, but what do you do with the information? Like, you need somebody, another kid dying in order to...
Sorry, I didn't hear the whole thing.
I mean, when you send an alert, how do you use this information? I mean, you need another kid to be dying.
I'll explain.
Just trying to understand how the public can help.
No, I understand. I'll explain my idea. You know, whether that changes over the process, you know, we'll leave it up to how it's going to be. My idea was, in the Amber Alert, we're directing the police enforcement groups to issue the Amber Alert because it's an official missing child, and they're the ones that issued. What we would do is have the hospitals issue the Torch of Life alert. So they would have to verify that it is, yes, a true medical condition that requires a donation, and it would be their discretion on whether it meets the guidelines to be an alert. And we would be forming our partnerships with the media. So I mean, for instance, the Star, the Sun, can devote one page for the children to show what children are in need, and we can work with other media outlets to do this, and we can create a website, a popular government website, to house all the children that are in need and to get people to look. So yes, if it would mean every day to do an alert, that's what we would do. That's how important those children are to us. There was something that you can hear from any family member that's in this situation right now, not to leave any stone unturned when it comes to saving a life. So we cannot put limits to this. Leave no stone unturned. No, we don't have this one.
But I just mentioned there was a press conference scheduled inside, but given the fact that we've had an opportunity to exchange questions here, I don't think there's a need for that.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Adi.